Hi, everybody. All right, so it is July 13th, 2026. It is Monday, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how I day traded today. Once again, we are trading micro ES, so essentially the price of the S&P 500, micro ES futures. I'm using regular trading hours on my chart. And I have one indicator on the chart. It is the VWAP line, which is unadjusted. These are the settings in case you're curious. So I'm going to be trading the New York session. It starts at 9:30 New York time. My local time, it's 10:30 it starts at. This is going to be the beginning of the New York session for today's trading. We start off on the 5-minute chart. The first thing I do is I take a rectangle tool and I highlight the first 3 5-minute candles on this chart from the lowest portion of those candles wicks to the highest portion of those candles wicks, which gives us our opening range. The first thing that I wait for from this opening range is I wait for price to break out of the opening range and print a candle body. That happens right here. This candle actually wicked out pretty quickly, fell about 21 points outside of the opening range, prints a candle body there. So we know that price has now broken below the opening range. Price is also below the VWAP line. So the first type of trade that we're going to be looking for today is going to be a continuation short to the downside. The next thing I need is I need a pullback of some kind. We get a good pullback here after this candle body prints outside of the opening range. We get 2 bullish candles in the opposite direction, coming back into the opening range and retesting the VWAP line. After a pullback, we need a confirmation candle. For a confirmation candle, we want a large bearish candle to the downside, telling us that price is now moving back down. We need it to close outside and below the opening range and below the VWAP line as well. So we need a candle body to close outside. And we also want the candle to be large, powerful, and for it to convince us that it's going to continue moving down. The first candle that we have that closes a candle body below the opening range outside of it is this candle right here. It's a fine bearish candle, but it's not very large. And this bottom wick here tells me that, well, before the candle closed, it had some bullish pressure that pushed it upwards. So I did not enter on this candle. The following candle that we get is this candle right here. A bit of a larger bearish candle to the downside. It looks pretty good, but I don't like the size of that bottom wick down there. It tells me that before that candle closed, some bearish pressure came back up and pushed that candle body just a little bit, and so I did not enter on this candle. So I decided to wait, and sure enough, we get price pulling back into the opening range. And then I still want to keep on waiting for a bearish candle that convinces me that it's going to be heading downwards. After we retest the VWAP line for a second time, following the first initial pullback, we then get a bearish candle to the downside once again. The only problem is that it doesn't close outside of the opening range. Maybe it does by looking at it very, very closely here, but it just wasn't enough to convince me. So I decided to keep on waiting. So I waited, and then I got price coming out of the opening range again. Then I get price retesting the VWAP line for a third time today, following our initial break outside of the opening range. And then I see price falling back down. Now I'm really gearing up for an entry. I just need the right bearish candle. And this was the exact bearish candle I was looking for. Very little wicks on the top and the bottom. A pretty full candle body convincing me that it's heading downwards. And it was a little bit later in the day. It was at 12:40 p.m. my local time, 11:40 a.m. New York time, but still pretty decent time to enter a trade, so I entered on the close of that bearish candle right there. I pulled my stop profit up to the top of the most recent pullback, which was a 9-point stop loss. Used a 9-point take profit. and this was a winning trade. So whenever price printed this candle right here, this bearish candle that's floating inside of the take profit area without any wicks or candle bodies touching the stop loss area, it was at this point that I was going to start my risk management strategy, which is following this I call it an airborne candle, or whenever it's floating within the take profit area without touching the stop loss area. If, let's say, a bullish candle would have printed after and it would have closed a candle body somewhere within the stop loss, I would have exited this trade early. I'd have just gotten out of the trade at whatever area it was in the stop loss for what I call a partial loss. Now, we did make a quick trip back into the stop loss area, but as you can see, before the candle was able to close, its body came back down to the take profit, so I was able to remain in this trade, and it's a good thing I did because this turned out to be a winner. So this was today's winning trade, continuation short to the downside, so continuation short to the downside. And this was our win today on micro ES futures, trading the S&P 500's price. That is it, guys. That's how I day traded. That's how I day traded today. Excuse me. And I will be back tomorrow with another video for some Tuesday day trading. Thanks for watching. Take care. Peace.